You can still be alone in Lochaber, you can still find your wild corner. Wild or not, for me hills are a humbling experience. Hills put you and yourself and your life into some sort of perspective. We come and go, but the hills remain. I was first introduced, in fact, to Steall, and I can still remember my eyes are opening as you just enter the gorge, having gone through the narrows of the gorge, and suddenly open into this amazing hanging valley with the waterfall coming down the back.
And you go through this neat little gorge and open up into an amazing open space where you can see the hills beyond, stretching up to the peaks. When I come out here and spend time just walking through into the gorge, it really reminds me why it's so special. And it's always been wild in terms of it's been a hard place to be and live at certain times of year. But there's a long history of people in this glen and glens all over Scotland. In the 1700s, a lot of sheep were put onto the hills around here, and that changed how people lived in the hills. And so people were living in Steall, where the Mountaineering Club hut is now. That was a shepherd's hut, and there's a ruin a little bit further along. And those were places where a family would live and tend their sheep. If you get other places that are slightly more comfortable, you don't experience the intense hardship, but then you perhaps don't get the amazing experiences of those special wild days where the light is amazing and you see things, see wildlife, see something happening that you wouldn't do if you're in a place with lots more people and lots more disturbance. So yeah, I think it was pretty hard. I think living up there as a shepherd in your family and those children having to walk out through the gorge all the way down to Lochaber to go to school, that's hard work. From age 5 they were doing that.
I've seen a picture of a wee shack. It was described as the tiniest school in Scotland. In order to keep shepherds in the glens and with their families, then they had to provide schools. So these schools popped up here and there in the most remote places. The back schools they were known as, and there were back schools all over Lochaber.
There's an old path through the gorge a little bit higher up than the tourist path, and it's amazing because you get on it and you get away from the main kind of route and you really feel you're part of some kind of long history of people using and travelling through the glen. So I think it always has been wild, but people have lived in it and used it in different ways over the years, whether it be charcoal for smelting in the 1600s, land for sheep in the 1700s through to the 1800s, and now there's a lot more coming in through recreation use, people with leisure time, spending time in the mountains, but all of that comes from what the land has to offer. And I think it's really good that that changes over time and we experience land in different ways, as long as we leave something of its essential wildness and its essential character so that future generations have still got a chance to find their way of experiencing and interacting in the land.
It's always varied, it's always changing. I love the autumn colours that you get upper Ben Nevis. I was really lucky. My parents were, well, still are, really into the outdoors. My dad's a mountain guide, so I was always out with them. First, I suppose, from being really young, getting carried up hills occasionally. I do remember running up into like the Moors and thought, yeah, this is kind of what I want to do. Go out in the hills and have adventures. I think it definitely helps to ground me that I'm out running. It's probably the wrong way to describe it, but maybe it's a bit like meditation. You're open to thoughts just coming through, so it does give you a bit of headspace that just seems to, things work themselves out as you're running. We're also busy lives. There's so many things to think about, and you just kind of want to go for a run. You have this feeling that, yeah, I want to get out, and don't quite know where that comes from. but I'm glad it's a feeling that I've got.
When you see Finlay running on the hills, you get a sense that that's where he belongs. The best way I can describe it is as if you were watching an animal, and some kind of deer or antelope, and you think they just move so gracefully. They've adapted to the landscape. They work in the landscape. That's their home, and that's how you can see Finlay.
If you're running regularly, your fitness gets to a point where, you know, it's not a chore to start running, and it's not physically, you know, it's not physically hard to go out and run. So it is relaxing. Even a race can be relaxing if it goes really well.
Have a good race, everybody.
I've done the Ben race 9 times, and I've won it 6 times in a row, the last 6 times. So I've had, my fastest time is an hour 29 and I think 20 something seconds. I never go into thinking I'm gonna win it. It's more about actually, you know, what can I do? Can I do a good time? If you and someone else who's fitter than you are going uphill, then the fitter person is probably going to beat you, you know, and you can't do that much to change it. So it is a race. Even in a race, it's against yourself. The fitter you are, the stronger, you know, your legs are for coming down and holding things together. You can't just let it go. Something steep like coming down the, you know, the grassy bank on the Ben. So you have to be keeping it in check and keeping yourself back. I love running downhill. It's just something about the flow. It just feels free.
The winner of the Ben Nevis race 2015, approaching the finishing line. Ladies and gentlemen, Finlay Wild. Well done, Paul! Well done! I want to say
We've gone to many places in the world, but we always have this fascination of Scotland and this love of the Lochaber Hills and the ever-changing light that you get out there. And the weather that we get here has a particular atmosphere on the mountains that you don't get anywhere else.
I think for me, having grown up in Fort William and then having been away, you know, now every time I go away, I sort of appreciate Scotland and Lochaber a bit more, because you've seen other amazing places in the world, but there's not quite that same mix that the west of, you know, the Highlands or Lochaber has. For me, I suppose it probably does seem, you know, less daunting to go up the Ben, you know, because it doesn't, actual time-wise, it doesn't take that long. I've got the fitness to do that, I've got the experience, but I don't see that as taking away from the wildness of the Ben. It maybe just means I can go and do different missions, different sort of link-ups of, you know, different routes. Just recently, I did a sort of traverse around the Ben, not going up to the summit, but going over one of the high sort of ridges, circumnavigation, and I thought, why have I never done this before? This is brilliant. I'm seeing the Ben from sort of literally all different angles. We live in instant gratification age, and I think the thing about any sport, but you know, particularly these sports where you're maybe out in horrible weather, you know, in the snow or in the dark or whatever, is that you do have to work at it, and maybe there's a bit of hardship, and then you get back home, you get a cup of tea, and so these luxuries, you feel like you've earned them, and they feel more special. you enjoy them more because of the contrast. We're in a total luxury position that we can do that. We've got the quality of life, you know, that we don't have to be out working it's ridiculous when you think about it. You know, we can spend our free time just going out and doing that because we want to.